Have you ever wondered if you're doing well with your money and if you will ever be able to save 100,000 euros? After saving over 250,000 euros by 29 and helping dozens of Europeans get on track to reach their first 100,000 euros, I've realized that even if you're putting in a lot of effort, you will never reach it if you don't change these 5 behaviors. So in this video, I'm going to show you what these 5 signs are and exactly how to fix them, so you can finally reach your first 100,000 euros too. Let me start with probably the most common mistake I see Europeans make when they're trying to build wealth, and I was definitely doing the same. When I first started working, I was obsessed with saving more money. So I started cutting my grocery spending, reduced dinners out with friends, and hunted for discounts on everything. After the first month, I had saved about 100 euros more than usual, and it felt great. So I continued like this for a year. But then I needed to buy a car. I spent one afternoon researching used options and found a really nice Audi A3 for about 25,000 euros. I immediately contacted the seller since it was a great deal. Unfortunately, I didn't make it in time and he had sold it before I could even see it. So I started searching again and found basically the same car for just 18,000 euros. This time I bought it. And by pure chance, I saved 7,000 euros. More than I ever thought I could save by cutting grocery spending. That made me realize I was focusing on the wrong things that would never help me reach my financial goals. And I've seen the same behavior in most of my clients, always trying to cut expenses, focusing on small wins. That's why the first sign you will never reach 100,000 euros is that you put most of your focus on small wins. You waste time on things that barely help you reach your goals. So what should you do instead? Focus on the big wins. These are the actions that make a huge difference to your finances. It could be getting a raise. It could be finding a better mortgage. Or, like it was for me, buying a used car at a great price. All of these actions will make a massive difference in reaching 100,000 euros, whereas saving a few euros at the grocery store will help, but won't have a huge impact. So always focus on the big wins first, then the small ones. Which brings us to the sign that's probably blocking you from discovering easy big wins you could make. Take a football team, for instance. When the team's on a losing streak, the first thing every club does is fire the coach and get a new one, hoping things will get better. Most of the time, nothing changes, because the real problem wasn't the coach. That's exactly what most people do with their expenses. They want to spend less, so they start cutting back on dinners with friends and groceries. But by doing that, they're just sacrificing part of their lifestyle, instead of actually solving the real issue, because they don't know what it is. And you don't know what it is because sign number 2 is that you try to optimize your expenses before understanding your income allocation. Understanding your allocation is the best way to identify which big win to work on. So how do you understand your income allocation? I've tried dozens of different systems, and for me, the one that works best and takes the least effort is what I call the FIGS system. FIGS stand for fundamentals, investment, guilt-free money, your fun money you can use however you want, and savings. Here is my own template for it. You can find it for free in the description if you like it too. Basically, you just track how much of your income goes into each of these 4 buckets. So, for example, let's say your income is 3,000 euros. Fundamentals 2,300, savings 300 euros, investing 200 euros, guilt-free money 200. If you check the overall allocation of your income, you'll notice that in this case, the problem isn't dinners with friends, but that most of your income goes to fundamentals. That's why it would be useless to cut your fun money. It wouldn't solve the real problem. Either your income is too low for your city, or you're spending too much on fundamentals like rent. Now, it's pretty easy to see if your salary is above or below average for your area, so you can immediately understand what your real problem is. And this immediately tells you which big win you should work on right now. This example might be extreme, but it gives you an idea of how to approach it. In general, with my clients, I use a rule of thumb. 55% to fundamentals, 15% each to investments, savings, and guilt-free money. Even though this is a general reference, that might not work for you, but it's useful to see if there are any significant differences and ask yourself why. The next sign is critical. Because of it, you might miss out on over 30,000 euros, just like my client did. She had been working hard for many years and had saved 40,000 euros, which is great. And she was rightfully happy, because she finally felt safe. She had enough to support herself if anything bad happened. But she didn't know that every single year she was missing out on thousands of euros, to the point that when we had our call, she had missed out on over 30,000 euros. Why? Because she had kept all her money in her bank account, just in case she needed it. And that's what most Europeans do with their money. They keep it in their account in case they might need it, because they're afraid they might lose it by investing, or because they simply don't know what to do with it. This is the third sign. You're keeping too much money in your bank account. The problem is, every year you lose money to inflation and miss out on potential gains from investing. And over your lifetime, this can make the difference between retiring early and never affording retirement. So, what should you do with your money? The principle of having some money available in case of problems is important. That's why you should always have an emergency fund. Online you often read you need 6 to 12 months of living expenses, but these are numbers for Americans. In most European countries, we have great services like public healthcare, employment protection, and even unemployment benefits. So, depending on your situation, a 3-month emergency fund is perfect. And you don't even need to keep it in your bank account. There are many high-yield savings accounts that let you quickly withdraw your money if needed. An example is Trade Republic. But keeping more than your emergency fund in your bank account is a waste. You should allocate it based on your goals. If you have short-term objectives like buying a house or taking a vacation, set that money aside in a high-yield savings account or buy some bonds. If you want your money to grow over the long term, invest in the stock market. This way, your money actually works for you instead of losing value to inflation. Next, this behavior is the reason most of our parents lost hundreds of thousands of euros. In March 2020, during COVID, I watched my portfolio lose 34% in 1 month. Every single day, my instinct told me to sell my stocks and stop the bleeding. That's what everybody was recommending. I mean, that's what we learned from the Great Recession in 2008, when most of our parents sold their investments to avoid ending up broke. The thing is, this single instinct might be the worst enemy for your money. Not only will it make you lose tens of thousands of euros, but you will also miss out on opportunities to make way more. That's why the fourth sign is that you're emotional about your money and panic during financial crisis, which will make you sell your investments and throw away all the savings you've worked hard for. So what should you actually do with your money during a crisis? In 2020, even though I didn't have much money since I had just started working, I made over 10,000 euros during the crisis. In 2022, during the Ukraine war crisis, I made over 20,000. And this year, with the tariff crisis, I made over 30,000. What you should do isn't black magic. It's what all good investors do during a crisis. They invest more money. It's like going to a shop during a sale. You buy your investments at a discounted price. This way, as soon as the market recovers, your investments will grow faster than ever. And yes, the market will recover. Historically, it always has. If it didn't, it would probably mean the whole global financial system had failed, and money probably wouldn't exist anymore. But the other question you probably have is, how do I manage the instinct to sell? Simple. Don't check your portfolio during a crash. It will be in the red, and checking will only trigger panic. And believe me, this new behavior will make you more money than you ever thought possible. Finally, this last sign is the one every single one of my clients, as well as most financial gurus and self-proclaimed experts online, gets wrong. And I did too in the beginning. When I first started managing my money, I'd spend hours every month tracking every single expense, analyzing where every cent went, and trying to understand what I could do better. And this obviously led to sacrifices to improve my savings. Fewer dinners out with friends, fewer trips, less money for fun activities. At the time, it felt like managing my money well meant sacrificing time and part of my life. And that's what most people think too. Endless hours of tracking, constant sacrifice, always saying no to things you enjoy but don't need. The reality is this approach doesn't make you save much more money, but it definitely makes you miserable, burns you out, and most of the time, you quit because it's unsustainable. That's why the fifth sign you will never reach 100,000 euros is thinking managing your money is about making sacrifices. So, what is managing your money about instead? It's about having a simple, sustainable system that works for you. And by simple, I mean it only takes 15 minutes per month. That's what I teach my clients using the FIGS system I created, which focuses on letting you enjoy your life without sacrificing everything. Thanks to it, not only it is faster than any other system you've tried, but it also makes it easier to identify your biggest financial problem so you can start working on it now. This is critical if you want to grow your savings, otherwise you will never work on the right obstacle. This will help you grow your wealth much faster, just like it did for me and several clients, like Luca, who tripled his savings in 1 year just by implementing it. If you want to know exactly how to implement this system in your life, watch this next video, where I will show you step by step what to do to make reaching your first 100,000 euros easier.